In this lecture, we are going to talk about balance of payments. First, let's understand what exactly is the meaning of BOP. Balance of payments means the balance of transactions happening between one currency and the other, one country, sorry, and the other. So, if there are transactions between India and USA, then the balance of those transactions happening between these two countries is what is called as balance of payments. Now, let's break it down. India will be exporting certain goods and services to USA. USA will be exporting certain goods and services to India, which will be imports for India. India will also be exporting certain capital goods and services, which are called capital assets. USA will be doing the same to India. India will also be exporting to USA in terms of foreign overseas direct investments. What is the meaning of that? Indian companies will be investing in the United States. टाटा ने यूएसए में इन्वेस्ट किया बाय परचेजिंग सम अदर कंपनी और बाय starting out a new company in the United States. USA also does the same to India, which will be called FDI. FDI इंडिया में होता है, इंडिया से बाहर यूएसए में होता है तो ओवरसीज डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट ODI. India will be investing in the USA in terms of foreign portfolio investment जो कि markets में होता है. USA will also be doing the same thing. So the balance of all these transactions happening between India and all the countries combined, the entire world combined, will give us what is called as balance of payments. Having understood this, let's understand the breakup of balance of payments. Balance of payments can be divided into three different transactions, which are current account, capital account, and official reserve account. Number one, current account. Number two, capital account. Third, official reserve account. Current account can further be divided into three parts: trade in goods and services, unilateral transfers, and factor income. Let's understand the first one, trade in goods and services. Trade in goods and services means purely export versus import of goods and services between India and the rest of the world. जो भी इंडिया एक्सपोर्ट करता है अदर कंट्रीज़ को और जो भी इंडिया इम्पोर्ट करता है अदर कंट्रीज से, उसका जो बैलेंस होता है दैट इज़ कॉल्ड balance of current account in trade in goods and services. For example, India exports ₹100 worth of goods and services combined in an entire year, and India imports 150 worth of goods and services in the entire year. तो 50 नेगेटिव जो हमारा बैलेंस है, this will be a part of current account balance of payment minus 50 here. Similarly, we'll find out the balance of all the other sub elements and then we'll balance out and find out balance of payment. When we're talking about trade in goods and services, it's important to talk about something called J curve, and the effect of that is called J curve effect. When there are imports and exports in goods and services, then the value of a currency becomes very important. You must have read in newspapers then that when the value of a currency depreciates, when a currency depreciates, then the exports increase, and when the currency appreciates, then its imports increase. Now there is an effect behind that which is called J curve effect. Let's come to that. This is the J curve effect. The J curve effect says that as a currency depreciates, it does not start improving our current account balance immediately. Normally, what would you think is when a currency is depreciated, this is in the negative. We are dealing with right now in current account deficit, and this is the surplus region. So the country is here. The country is experiencing current account deficit at the moment. Normal argument would be that when there is depreciation of a currency in an economy, then the exports will increase. As soon as exports increase, you will start experiencing current account surplus. But this does not happen. The actual curve which takes place is this given in the following diagram. What does it say? It says that when depreciation happens of a currency in a country, then current account deficit increases for a while, and then the country starts moving towards current account surplus. Why does this happen is because every country takes certain time to adjust to the depreciated value. So in this time period, what is happening is exports are not increasing and imports are not changing. So if a country was exporting textiles, and because of depreciation of currency the textiles have become more competitive in the market, there will be a time lag when this competitiveness will be experienced by the market. Similarly, if it is importing certain goods and services, for example luxuries, so if you are importing Audis from the European market, these Audis are bound to get expensive because the currency is depreciated. So it will take some time for the people to understand that the price of Audi has gone up, so we better shift to some other good, some other luxury item rather than buying Audis from the European market. This time lag creates an effect which is called J-curve effect. Having understood this, let's come back to the current account. The second element in current account is unilateral transfers. We have already talked about this. What exactly are unilateral transfers? One way transactions which happen between one country and the rest of the world or any other country is called unilateral transfer. So इंडिया के बीच में और किसी और कंट्री के बीच में जो भी ट्रांजैक्शंस हो रही हैं विच आर यूनिलेटरल इन नेचर, मतलब जिसमें India receives something but it does not have to pay back anything is called a unilateral transfer. USA ने इंडिया को फॉरेन एड दिया $500 million का. Now because this is a foreign aid, so India is not required to pay back this money in any form in the future. This is a unilateral transfer. Similarly, USA ने कुछ grants भेजे या फिर remittances are very important part of unilateral transfer. Lot of people, lot of Indians work outside the country and they send back money regularly to their Indian relatives or families in the country. जो भी remittances आते हैं, these Indian families are not required to pay back those amounts to their families living outside the country. So these transactions are called unilateral transfers. This is a part of current account again. Third is factor income, interest and dividend. Whatever investments are made by Indians outside the country, whatever interests and dividends are received on those investments in the future become a part of factor income. टाटा ने यूएस में फोर्ड को खरीदा या फोर्ड में लेट्स अज्यूम इन्वेस्ट किया. टाटा ने फोर्ड में इन्वेस्ट किया, उसका 50% स्टेक खरीद लिया. फोर्ड ने फ्यूचर में बहुत प्रॉफिट कमाया, सो इट पेज आउट डिविडेंड्स. लेट्स अज्यूम $100 million का उन्होंने डिविडेंड्स दिया. $50 million इंडिया के पास आएगा इन द फॉर्म ऑफ डिविडेंड्स, टाटा के पास आएगा. सो दिस मनी इज गोइंग टू कम बैक टू इंडिया बिकॉज टाटा इज एन इंडियन कंपनी. दिस विल बी अ पार्ट ऑफ फैक्टर इनकम फॉर इंडिया. ऐसे ही फैक्टर आउटगोइंग्स भी होंगी फॉर वट एवर इन्वेस्टमेंट्स आर मेड inside the country by foreign investors. This is why factor income is directly connected to FDI and FPI investments made in the country which come under capital account. Let's come to capital account now. In capital account also there are three sub elements. Number one, purchase and sale of capital assets. Secondly, FDI, and third is foreign portfolio investment or FPI. Purchase and sale of capital assets. Whatever India exports to the rest of the market, to the rest of the world in terms of sale of capital assets will result in income of money, incoming of money, and will be an addition to the capital account. Similarly, whatever India exports from the imports from the rest of the world in terms of import of capital assets, that will result in outgoing of money, and that will be a negative to the capital account. Let's take an example to understand. टाटा ने परचेज किया सुपर कंप्यूटर चाइना से. टाटा परचेजेस सुपर कंप्यूटर फ्रॉम चाइना. फॉर दैट इट पेज सर्टेन मनी टू चाइनीज कंपनीज जहाँ से उन्होंने परचेज किया. सो दिस विल बी अ नेगेटिव इन कैपिटल अकाउंट बिकॉज इट रिजल्ट्स इन आउटगोइंग ऑफ मनी फ्रॉम द इंडियन मार्केट. सेकेंडली, टाटा ने सुपर कंप्यूटर बनाया और वो यूएसए को बेचा. So that results in receipt of money for Indian economy, and that will be an addition to the capital account. Now it's very important to understand that capital account transactions improve the quality of balance of payments or improve the quality of exports and imports for an economy in the future. Why? Because if Tata imports supercomputers, and through those supercomputers it creates a new company, or it increases the workforce or the work in the present company through those supercomputers, and it starts exporting a lot of services to the world, then it is creating jobs and it is creating money in the economy. But when a country imports a lot of goods and services for consumption purposes only, which is a part of this, then it is not creating any value addition for the future. Therefore, it's very important to differentiate when you're working, to differentiate between these two and to understand as to where the government is spending a major part of its money. Second is FDI, foreign direct investment. फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट के ऑपोजिट को बोलते हैं ओवरसीज डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट, ODI. So foreign direct investment would be whatever investment comes in the economy from the world, and ODI will be whatever investments are made in the rest of the world. So FDI will be a positive because FDI से पैसा आ रहा है, and ODI will be negative because ODI से पैसा जा रहा है. But what happens is FDI से पैसा तो आ गया, but when it comes about factor income, so FDI में आज एक कंपनी ने इन्वेस्ट किया इंडिया में, after 5 years whatever investments they have made, they start earning on those investments in terms of interest or dividends. Then they will start taking money away from the Indian market through those interest and dividends. So यहाँ पे इंडिया ने पॉजिटिव एक्सपीरियंस किया, 5 साल के बाद नेगेटिव यहाँ पे एक्सपीरियंस करना शुरू कर दिया. ऐसे ही ODI हुआ तो यहाँ पे नेगेटिव हुआ. आज बहुत सारा इन्वेस्टमेंट किया टाटा ने फोर्ड में आउटसाइड द इकोनॉमी, आउटसाइड द डोमेस्टिक इकोनॉमी. 5 साल बाद वहाँ से डिविडेंड्स आने शुरू हुए, विच विल बी एन एडिशन टू फैक्टर इनकम. सो दिस इज हाउ FDI एंड फैक्टर इनकम वर्क टुगेदर, विच आई जस्ट टॉक्ड अबाउट. थर्ड हो जाता है फॉरेन पोर्टफोलियो इन्वेस्टमेंट. इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंस बिटवीन FDI एंड FPI. नंबर वन डिफरेंस क्या है? FDI is more than 10% investment in any company. FPI is 10% or less than 10%. So 10% और less than 10% जो भी इन्वेस्टमेंट किया दैट इज़ अ पार्ट ऑफ FPI. उससे ज़्यादा हो जाता है टेक्निकली तो उसको FDI बोलते हैं. सेकेंडली FDI इज़ मेड फॉर लॉन्ग टर्म पर्पस. Whatever investments are made with an intention of long term growth of the company and long term dividend generation of the company are called FDI. FPI में क्या होता है? The purpose is to take advantage of movements of the stock of the company. मैंने आज 9% इन्वेस्ट किया because I expect the stock of the company to go up in within the next 1 year. As soon as the stock prices go up, I disinvest, I move out to the economy, take back this 9% investment that I made. So the purpose of FPI is to take advantage of movement of stock prices in the economy. The objective of FDI is long term. It is in order to build a brand, build a company, and take advantages from the success of that company in the long term. So this is the fundamental difference between FDI and FPI. दोनों ही कैपिटल अकाउंट में आते हैं, both the investments. Third and last is official reserve account. These are the reserves of an economy. Whatever reserves any economy has comes under official reserve account. There are 4 sub elements in this: gold reserves, foreign exchange reserves which are kept by the RBI, which are presently more than $350 billion. Third is special drawing rights. स्पेशल ड्राइंग राइट जो भी एक कंट्री ने, जो भी इंडिया ने IMF में परचेज करके रखे हुए हैं, दोज आर कॉल्ड स्पेशल ड्राइंग राइट्स. एंड फोर्थ इज रिजर्व पोजीशन इन IMF. वट एवर रिजर्व पोजीशन इंडिया हैज़ इन द IMF, that will be a part of official reserve account. Let's come to the next topic, which is quality of deficit. Now it's important to understand that we do not have to go through only the deficit when we are talking about an economy. The government does not talk about only the fact that it has current account deficit or capital account deficit or overall BOP deficit. It tries to analyze where the deficit is arising from, how the deficit is being experienced by the economy or by the country. So it's important to understand the quality of deficit that a country is experiencing. Let's take an example to understand. जो हमने पहले लिया था, टाटा ने सुपर कंप्यूटर्स इम्पोर्ट किए चाइना से. टाटा ने उन सुपर कंप्यूटर्स की मदद से अपनी कंपनी को एक्सपैंड किया और जॉब्स क्रिएट की और लोग हायर किए और सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करनी शुरू करी. to the world and it starts exporting services to the rest of the world. Outsourcing करी USA के लिए, Europe के लिए. So it is creating jobs in the domestic economy, catering to the services of the rest of the world. So through this import of one supercomputer from China, it has created a lot of positives. It is exporting, it is also creating jobs. This is creating deficit in the present year, but this will help create surplus in the future years for Indian economy. This is what is an example of import of capital goods. Let's take another example. Consumption goods. इंडिया में पेट्रोलियम का you all know import बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. Import का पेट्रोलियम का import कर रहे हैं हम लोग. All that petroleum is being consumed in the domestic economy today itself, in the present itself. So that does not result in any job creation directly in the future. That does not result in any export of service or good in the future. So this petroleum is being consumed by the economy purely and not being used for any further production or any further value addition. So this is the difference between import of consumption goods versus import of capital goods. Now if an economy is importing consumption goods, it might be beneficial for the economy in the future, but if an economy is experiencing deficit because of import of consumption goods, then it is bad for the economy. अभी इंडिया में क्या हो रहा है, करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट होता है. करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट क्यों होता है? एक तो हम लोग गोल्ड बहुत इंपोर्ट करते हैं which is used for, then we import a lot of petroleum, again a consumption good. We are not creating any value addition for the future. So these two items are bad for the economy. These two items are bad as per the quality of import for the economy. So the quality of deficit in the economy is bad in India when it comes to petroleum and gold imports. If the same money was used for import of capital goods, then the quality of deficit would have been good. Having understood balance of payments, let's come to the foreign exchange market. There are certain important terms which I'm going to talk about in the foreign exchange market lecture. I'm not going to cover the entire foreign exchange market because that we are going to cover later. Here I'm going to talk about only the important terms which are asked consistently or regularly in the interview as well as in phase 2 examination. There are 5 terms which we are going to talk about. Number 1, nominal exchange rate, and number 2, real exchange rate. Let's talk about these two first. Nominal exchange rate is the price of one currency in terms of another. Let's understand it with the help of an example. If $1 in the US economy versus rupees, the exchange rate is 50 for $1, which means that if you want to buy $1, you have to pay rupees 50, or if you want to buy 50 rupees, you have to pay $1. This is the nominal exchange rate between two countries. So the exchange rate between USA and India, currencies of these two countries, is 1:50, which is $1 for 50 rupees. It is important to understand that nominal exchange rate is only bilateral here in nature, which means bilateral nominal exchange rate between one country and the other. So we're talking about exchange rate between India and the rest of the world. We're talking about only exchange rate between India and USA in terms of currencies. So nominal exchange rate talks about the exchange value of one currency into the other. Whereas when we talk about the real exchange rate, then we are not talking about currencies directly, we are talking about currencies through certain goods and services. Ratio of foreign to domestic prices. How do we do it? Let's understand what is real exchange rate. Let's take potatoes. So potatoes, 1 kg of potatoes cost rupees 20 in India, and 1 kg of potatoes cost $2 in United States of America. The exchange rate between these two countries is 1:50, which means $1 is equivalent to 50 rupees. Applying this formula, we get real exchange rate is equal to E into PF upon P. Now E here is the exchange rate between these two countries, which we derive through the nominal exchange rate, which is 1:50. So if we are talking about dollars to rupee, then 50 rupees is $1. PF is the price of a certain good in the foreign market, which was $2, and the price of the same good in the Indian market, which is rupees 20. So this comes to 5. This means that the real exchange rate between the two countries is 5 in this case. This is how we calculate real exchange rate. So the difference between real and nominal exchange rate is that nominal exchange rate is comparing the currencies of two countries, whereas real exchange rate is doing the same by comparing prices of two commodities in the two comparable countries. The third one is purchasing power parity. There is a very slight difference between purchasing power parity and real exchange rate. Basically, purchasing power parity is a subset of real exchange rate. In short, purchasing power parity is said to exist whenever the real exchange rate is 1, which means that the price of a particular good in the foreign country is equal to price of the same good in the Indian country, in India. So let's take the example of potatoes only. 1 kg of potatoes cost rupees 100 in India, and 1 kg of potatoes costs dollars 2 in United States of America. The exchange rate between these two countries is 1 is to 50, which means $1 is equal to 50 rupees. When we arrive at the real exchange rate, it comes at 50 into 2 upon 100, which is 1. So this 1 is the real exchange rate, and this also shows that there is purchasing power parity between India and United States of America, because the real exchange rate between these two countries is equal to 1. Whenever the real exchange rate is not equal to 1, the two countries are said to have no purchasing power parity. How is it important? It compares the standard of living between two countries. It is measured through Big Mac index. So what we are trying to compare through purchasing power parity is standard of living between two countries through the measure of commodity between the two countries. The expenditure on a similar commodity must be same in both currencies when accounted for exchange rate. So purchasing power parity tends to measure that whether the expenditure on a similar commodity is same in two countries when accounted for exchange rate, or they are not same. So if a real exchange rate is 1, which means that there is purchasing power parity, which means that the expenditure on this one commodity called potato is similar or same in the two comparing countries. Whereas if it is not equal to 1, it means that there is no purchasing power parity, or the standard of living differs between these two countries. This is the difference between purchasing power parity and real exchange rate. The objective of measuring both is completely different. That is where the difference arises. Let's come to the other two terms which are important in the foreign exchange market. These are nominal effective exchange rate, or NEER, and REER, which is real effective exchange rate. These are normally asked in the interview as well. It's important to understand what are they. They differ from the nominal and real exchange rate very minutely. Nominal exchange rate is the movement of domestic currency related to all other current currencies in the entire world. So in nominal exchange rate, we compared only dollars and rupees, but in nominal effective exchange rate, we are comparing rupees with all other currencies in the rest of the world. How do we do that? We compare it through weights of international trade of each foreign currency with respect to domestic currency. So if Japan's weight is 1.1% when it comes to international trade between India and Japan, and USA's uh, trade weight of trade between USA and India is 5%, then we measure the exchange rates between these countries, and then we take these weights into consideration to find out the nominal effective exchange rate at the end. The important thing to remember here is that weights of international trade of each foreign currency is taken into consideration to find out nominal effective exchange rate. What exactly is real effective exchange rate? It's a variance of real exchange rate only, where the weighted average of real exchange rates of all trading partners is taken into consideration. So you find out the real exchange rates between India and USA, India and Japan, India and Europe, and then you find out the weighted average of the exchange rates, real exchange rates of all these countries with respect to India, to come at the value of real effective exchange rate. So the fundamental difference is that real exchange rate and nominal exchange rate are talking about bilateral comparisons between two countries, whereas nominal and real effective exchange rates are talking about multilateral comparisons between the domestic currency, which is Indian rupee, and the rest of the world.